Chinmay, can you hear me?
Yes, Swami. It just came
David, can you hear me?
Yes, Swami.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Swami.
You are coming in clear, Swamiji, not to worry.
Is it, am I audible to anyone?
Yes,
Yes, it's very good.
Yeah, I can hear you very good.
perfectly, not to worry.
Swami.
I'll put it in the chat. I don't know if you can hear us.
No, can't.
First, unmute and tell me.
David is saying you can hear me clearly.
Oh, clear?
Yes,
We can hear you clearly. Okay. Fine. Okay, we'll start, though we are a bit late. We'll start with our prayer. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Asato ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmuyidhi. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tam Agocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Let us be protected. Let we be nourished. Let our study be energy with energy and vigor. Let our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om peace, peace, peace.
Peace.
Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to immortality and lead us to enlightenment and not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifest Atman grow in me. Om peace, peace, peace.
Peace, peace, peace.
I bow to Govinda, whose nature is bliss supreme, who is the Sadguru, who can be known only from the import of all Vedanta, and who is beyond the reach of speech and mind. He is beyond speech and mind. Mind cannot conceive it. Speech cannot express it. But it is existing. It is on that which our existence depends. So we are studying Vivekachudamani. David Levinter.
Yes, Swami.
You would like to read?
Yes, Swami.
First,
Can you hear me?
you have to unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted, Swami. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
It's not audible here.
Can anybody else hear me?
David, you're unmuted as David, but you're muted under DL.
So you can hear me? Okay or no?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that means we cannot. Generally, we read from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda,
So Swami can't hear me?
but it looks like
I don't know.
not David Blumenschein, David Levinter.
yes, Swami, I think he's able to read and we are all catching him.
Oh, you can hear me, but
We
We
can
hear-
hear him
reading is
and
not audible.
Swami.
Okay, no
We-
problem.
We hear you, we hear David. All is
So we
good.
are studying Vivekachudamani. Vivek is very important. Let us think about it first. In this world, everything is mixed up. Good, bad, whatever is something we like and something we don't like. So if we interact with this world, many times we know that it is good for us, but we don't do. And many times we know it is bad, but still we do. You know, the question was in front of Duryodhan. Duryodhan was not a fool, rather he was very wise, but he fought with Arjuna and the Pandavas, and Sri Krishna was against him. So he was against dharma. And similarly, Ravana also was like that. So when it was asked, why you do so? So he said, Janami dharmam nachame pravritti. I know what is dharma, what is good, what is real, what is righteous. But I have no pravritti. I don't want to do that. Janami adharmam, janamya dharmam, nachame nivritti. I know what is adharma, but I cannot get rid of it. Then tvaya rishikesha ridhistitena yatha niyuktosmi tatha karami. So that is, O Rishikesha, O God, sitting in my heart, whatever you make me do, I do that. So that is a different standpoint, but this is our experience, that we interact in this world and we know that it is not good, but we do it. And many times we know it is good, but we don't do it. So what is the reason behind it? The reason behind is our previous impressions. That makes what we are today. So it is called Prakriti. Prakriti means what is our nature? What we have accumulated over the years. So that nature is very difficult to go. First, we have to identify what is our ailment, and then we have to remove it. Then only we can get rid of it. Otherwise, precepts will not do. So what is this? You know, Sri Krishna said that indriyasyarthe raga dvesho vyavastito. We have senses, and senses has got sense objects to perceive. We have some likings and disliking. Indriyasya, this is indriyasya. Our eyes, ears, tongue, taste, and also touch and smell. These 5 senses help us to see this world, hear this world, and enjoy this world. So these, whatever we enjoy, that's called objects of the senses. So indriyasyarthe, that means senses has got some objects of perception. And some are liked, and some are disliked. But Bhagavan says, Tayor na vashamagachet. You should not come under the spell of its influence. That I like something, therefore I must do something. I must do that. It's not. Whatever is righteous, that should be done. So indriyasyarthe raga dvesho vyavastito. So this is ordained. This is already fixed. If some good music is coming, immediately we are attracted. we cannot help us. And sometimes even noise, we cannot avoid it. We dislike it. So this is ordained already. But we should not come under its spell of liking and disliking. Indriyasya indriyasyarthe raga dvesho vyavastito. Tayor na vasham agachet. Do not come under the spell of it, of them. Tohyasya paripantino, because this is against your righteous goal. So therefore, we must know what is good for us, what is not good for us. That is called Viveka. Viveka is very important. This should be applied all the time. Without this, we cannot grow in a spiritual path. So therefore, Vivekachudamani, here we are studying something by which we are able to know what is good and what is not good. And secondly, though we see many, but in those many, we must find that unity on which everything seems to exist. Therefore, we are to find that unity first. And after that, whenever we see that variety, those varieties, then there is no difficulty, because then we are established in one, the unity. When we are established in unity, then when variety, we can have them without causing harm on us. Otherwise, we are attracted to those and we cause harms to ourselves. So with this introduction today, let us go to the text. So here we have 385. The shloka is Ghata, Kalasha, Kushula, Suchi Mukhi, Gaganam, Upadhi Shatehi, Vimuktam Ekam, Bhavati na Vividham, Tathaiva, Shuddham, Param Ahamadi Vimuktam Ekam Eva. So our objective is to find that unity. Unity in variety. Our teacher is taking us there. Bhagwan Shankaracharya is trying various ways to take us to that unity. If we are able to identify that unity, then variety cannot harm us. Otherwise, we'll be running from pillar to post and we cannot reach our goal. And that unity is within us. That unity is our goal. So he gives example, the sky divested of the hundreds of upadhis. Upadhis means adjuncts. Now we have upadhis, like I identify with this body, you identify your body. And similarly, we also see various objects of this world. So here example is given that in all objects, sky is common. The sky divested of the hundreds of upadhis. Upadhis means limiting adjuncts. So especially body is limiting adjunct, or any form or any name when it is given. Name and forms are good for artha, kriya, karitva. That means it has a meaning. It has these have some work, and also we can perform those works. So it is good for that purpose. But beyond that, it has no ulterior or ultimate existence. So sky divested of the hundreds of upadhis. When the, here, let me first read it, then it will come to the meaning. As a jar, a pitcher, a receptacle for grains, a needle, and so forth, is one and not diverse. Exactly in a similar way, the pure Brahman, when divested of egoism, etc., is verily one. So we have our small egos, and as soon as we have egos, we like something, we dislike something, as we have just now said, raga, vesho, vyavastito. And therefore, when we identify with our small ego, and we find so many things, and we like something, we dislike something, there comes our difficulty, our suffering. So in those, we have to find that unity. Generally, we find that when we interact with this world, something happens which we don't want. Say, for example, so we expect some return from, say, even a smile from our friends, or we expect some behavior pattern from our friends, but we don't get it. And then we are devastated, or we are dejected. But if we can think that, yes, he or she may have some difficulty to express herself in that way, then we can overcome that difficulty. So here, to find out that unity, that means here, what is a unity? With me, within you, with all the objects of the world, it is the divine and divine alone that exists. So we are to find that divinity within. That is important. So here example is given, the sky. See, we have many objects here in front of us, chair, table, even house, and all of them we can see that akash, yatha akasha sthito nitya vayu sarvatra go mahan. Like it is air, it is flowing in the space, in a akash. So akash is common in all. And when we remove all the limiting adjuncts, so akash is one. See, even house, the house will crumble one day. So akasha will not. Similarly, in all of us, there is a common entity which we call Brahman. And when we divest, when we remove all the limiting identities, egoism, liking, disliking, then we can find it. Does it mean that we should not have anything? No, as of now, let us first recognize it. Even if after that we have liking, disliking, it cannot overpower us and cannot disturb us. That is important. Say, after the discourse of Gita, even Arjuna had to fight. We are to fight. We are to stand for righteousness. There is no escape from there. But when we discover the unity, then it will not disturb us. Otherwise, we suffer so much. So here simple examples are given. So ghata is a kind of earthen pot, and kalasha is another pot, kusula, suchi. All these are various pots where inherent Akash is inherent. The space is inherent. Even in a um, that means teacher and needle. There also is this a little eye of needle. So all these are various upadhis, limiting adjuncts. But the common minimum thing is space. There we are all one. Similarly, we have egos and clashes of egos. It's not only clashes of cultures, but it is egos. I know better than you. So this ego is the problem. Therefore, we must identify that this is the problem. And then with prayer, with meditation, with discrimination, we can overcome that difficulty. So we go to the next. Oh. Yeah. that's- Here. Oh, here. Where it is go.
Are we still?
Okay, so that means we cannot go with the text. So if you have books, that will help. So after giving the example, then the exemplified is given. Brahmadi stamba paryantya mrisha matra upadhayaha. So various upadhis, as we have just now heard, that is limiting adjunct. So all these are seeming. Mrisha, though here Mrisha means it is false. But we can say it is temporary, it is seeming. Tataha purnam swam atmanam pashet ekatmana sthitam. Therefore, see that which is purna. What is that? The self within us. On this self, the whole world is floating. And those floating entities have limiting adjuncts. So all these are seeming, it's not real. Brahmadi stamba paryanta. Like we dream. In a dream, we experience various objects of the dream, but those are not real entity. When we understand, when we come out of our dream. Okay, let me. Just follow it. Anyway, I not necessarily. So I have, I'm not sharing. Those who have books, please follow your books. So starting from Brahma, the body of Brahma, ego of Brahma, Brahmadi, Stamba Paryanta, even a blade of grass. So all these upadhis, all these adjuncts are seeming. They have no real entity. They have no real existence. All these exist on the self, which is complete and full, which is Purnam. So one should realize this, that what is myself, that is Purna, and all other objects that we perceive, all these are seeming. Now let us go to the next. Yatra bhrantya kalpitam tad viveke tat tanmatram neiva tasmat vivinnam. Yatra bhrantya kalpitam, whatever we conceive because of our erroneous understanding, tat viveke tat tanmatram neiva tasmat vivinnam bhantir nashi bhati drishtahi tattvam rajjus tadvat vishwam atma swarupam. So the running translation is that in which something is imagined to exist through error is when rightly discriminated, that thing itself and not distinct from it. So what is this? Like we can take an example of a rope. On the rope, when you see a snake, when you see a snake, if it is half lighted and half dark, it's not completely dark, then you won't see anything. If it is fully lighted, you see it is a rope. And you are walking, bit thinking something else, then all of a sudden you see a snake. And then you bring a light, you might have howled and shouted, but when you bring a light and see, oh, it is a rope. So this is the example. So what is that exemplified? That in which something is imagined to exist. So like on rope, we are imagining that there is a snake. Similarly, this world, we imagine this world exists. And with its all fangs, all the instruments to harm us. So this is what we imagine. Through error is when rightly discriminated, that thing itself and not distinct from it. So when we discriminate, then we can understand, oh, there is no snake. Rather, it is a rope. So that thing itself is there and not what we imagined because of our error. That is there. So that thing itself and not distinct from it. When the error is gone, the reality about the snake falsely perceived becomes the rope. So whatever we imagine, when we correctly perceive, then we see the reality. Similarly, we may see many people are there, many objects in this world, but all these are conceived on the self, on us. If we can see that, then we'll not see many. It is the self who is shining in so many forms. So whatever falsely perceived can be get rid of. When the error is gone, the reality about the snake falsely perceived becomes the rope. So similarly, when we see this world and see something which we like, we see something which we don't like. But if we see its real nature, then we'll understand that it is the self and nothing else. And then we have no difficulty. Similarly, the universe is in reality the Atman. So though we see varieties, but in reality, it is the self who is manifesting in so many forms. And these forms are seeming, it is not permanent. Even it may look it is permanent, but as you bring the knowledge, light of knowledge, you can see that unity within. Like your dream. When you dream, you may seem that those objects are different, but as soon as you come out of dream, you know that those objects were not real. They were seeming. Now we go to the next. Swayam Brahma, Swayam Vishnu, Swayam Indraha, Swayam Shivaha, Swayam Vishwamidam Sarvam, Swasmat Anyat Na Kinchana. So you yourself, the self is Brahma, the self is Vishnu, the self is Indra. See, previously we thought, okay, all these gods and goddesses, they are different. But actually it is you yourself or your real self, not this seeming self. The self is Shiva, the self is all this universe. Nothing exists except the self. So there is nothing. Therefore, when there is nothing except oneself, how can we blame others? Generally, we blame others. For any mistake, we blame others. But actually, it is you or it is the person who committed. It's because of his or her previous actions that we suffer. And we suffer why? Because of ignorance. Because of ignorance, we suffer. How we suffer? Because our previous impressions, samskaras, we have some likings and disliking. And because of ajnana, ignorance, we see many. And when we see many and myself different from it, then our suffering starts. Therefore, this is the truth that the self, this self, on which the whole universe is hanging. The whole universe is going round and round. The whole universe exists because of the self. So this self is Brahma, this self is Vishnu, this self is Indra. These are all gods and goddesses. The self is Shiva, the self is this universe. Nothing exists except the self. Like example is given, space, Akasha. In all being, it is Akasha, space. Even we may think that it is solid, but a scientist will tell you that it is not solid. Rather, electron, protons, and neutrons, etc. Neutrons, they have nucleus, and electron goes round and round. It's like a cloud surrounding that nucleus. And proportionately, as it is as far as moon from the earth. So such is the distance. So what is the point? Point is apparently it looks solid, but it is not solid. It is full of Akasha. On that Akasha, all seemingly exist. And the quantum physics will tell further that we do not know what it is. It may look that it is, when we are observing, then it may look solid, but in reality, we may not know what is there. Like when you are not dreaming, what is there? Nothing exists. When you are dreaming, then dream exists. It is like that. So Swayam Brahma, Swayam Vishnu, Swayam Indra, Swayam Shiva. But problem is, we have previous samskaras. Therefore, it is very difficult to consider how can I be gods and goddesses. It's difficult. I am Vishnu, not this I, not this limiting adjunct, but your real self. Why? Because of that, all the concept of gods and goddesses have come. Because of that, even you feel that this limiting adjuncts, this body, this mind, this egoism. So therefore, the point is our real self. That real self is Brahma, Vishnu. That is why when one takes initiation, one is given a mantra and also an ideal. And one should meditate on that ideal and gradually become that. Then this limiting adjunct will fall off. So that's the idea. So this theoretically we have to understand first that this, not this one. Our real self is the central point on which the whole world revolves. We go to the next, but the problem is we cannot interact. Antah swayam chapi vaihi, swayam cha swayam purastat, swayameva paschat, swayam hya vachyam, swayam apya dityam, tatho parishtat, swayam apya adhastat. So it is the self. In front of you, it is yourself. In back of you, it is self. So the self is within. The self is without. Within you, it is the self. And outside you also the self. The self is before and self is behind. The self is in the south and the self is in the north. The self likewise is above and also below. So it is the self on which all these ideas are floating. The self alone exists and not anything else. So in Mundaka Upanishad, it is also said like that. So Sa Brahma, there is Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad says, Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sendra, Swakshara, Parama, Swarat, Sa Eva Vishnu, Sa Prana, Sa Kalagni, Sa Chandrama, Sa Eva Sarvam, Yadbhutam, Yachya Bhavyam, Sanatanam. Yatvatam Mrittum Atyeti Nanyah Pantha Vimuktaye.
Yes. Can you tell which part of the Taittiriya Upanishad?
Yeah, Taittiriya Upanishad is 1, 8 and 9. So this self is Brahma, this self is Vishnu, this self is Akshara, Param and Swarat, who is sovereign. Sayeva Vishnu Sa Pranaha. This is Vishnu, all pervading. And Sa Kalagni Sa Chandrama. So all that exists, all those exist are in fact this self. Without self, nothing can exist. So this existing is what we conceive, what we see, what we perceive. These are seeming, but self alone is real. That is the point. Sayeva sarvam yadbhutam yachya bhavyam sanatanam. What is eternal? So when we understand this, then one transcends death. Nyatvatam mrittum utteti nanyah pantha vimukta. There is no other way. One has to understand this. So one way is that we posit God somewhere and all the time we pray. And we weep in front of him. And we praise, oh, what a wonderful nose you have. What a wonderful earring that you are wearing. So all these are good. That will at least take to that direction. But ultimately we have to understand that all these are adjuncts. And it is on the self. and these have limiting existence. Therefore, those are to be overcome. And then what we have just now studied, Antah Swayam Chapi Bahihi. Swayam Cha, Swayam Purastat, Swayam Eva Paschat, Swayam Hiva Avachyam. So this is in Ishopanishad similar ideas are there. Tat ejati tan ejati. Tat ejati means that vibrates and that don't vibrate. Tad dure tad dvantiki. That is far than you and that is within you. Tad antarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya paihati. And it is inside everything and outside everything. That means what? This alone exists. All other imagination, all other thinking, that all these exist, these are erroneous. So he moves, he also does not move. What means what? When I am moving, as if self is moving, but self is one and it is singularity. Where to move? So ultimately it is not moving. And that is farther, and again it is not, it is within. He is inside and he is also outside. Now and then another Chandogya Upanishad also says, Atmaiva adhastat atma uparishtat atma paschad atma purastad atma dakshinatah atma uttaratah atmai vedam sarvam. So everywhere it is the self. See, in your dream, the whole dream is you. And all that you dream is only seeming. In your dream, in front of you, in your back, side, whatever you perceive, it is you and you alone. Here, we are not talking about this limiting adjunct, like we have ideas. Oh, my name is this, I belong to this family or that family. Not that identity. That which is the center in your being, that real identity, that is the thing. So these are say translated and put in a verse form. So we go to the next. Is there any question?
Sorry, no question either in YouTube or in Zoom.
Okay.
I sent a question way
Oh, yes.
before. I'm so sorry. I'm so stupid. I don't know how to send it, one of the chat things.
No, Jen, I can hear you. Please carry on.
Okay. So my question was, before we move on, all of this philosophy is very high sounding, but for many Grihastas, I'm going to include myself, the concrete, trying to understand how to put this into practice, goes back to something you said at the very beginning of class, before 385, when you said, I know what is our Dharma, but I cannot get rid of it. What is the reason behind this? It is our previous nature. We have to identify that. We have senses and sense objects to perceive. Also, ragadesha, attachment, aversion.
Yeah.
You should not come under the spell of ragadesha, even though it's already ordained.
Okay.
The
I
way
understand.
the way to get rid of this, you said, was prayer and just viveka, discrimination.
Great. So first we are identifying that unity. If we can identify unity, then there will be no raga and dvesha. See, most of our suffering you see. So yesterday someone did not receive a delivery. So what happened naturally, so there was a little commotion. So it is because of our liking and disliking. But if we can understand that the person who did not take the delivery, it is me and it is my mistake, then will not come under the spell of that raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. So if we can identify that unity, we can overcome these difficulties. See, generally what happens? We want to depend, we say our legs are weak. We cannot stand on our legs. So we have a stick. But if stick is weak, then we can fall anytime. So as of now, we are not strong enough to walk on our feet. So we need some help. And what is that help? We believe in our senses. Senses are weak sticks, as it were. As soon as we depend on the weak stick, we can fall anytime and every time. But if by the discrimination, by the power of discrimination, we understand it is me and me alone who is manifesting in all being, then I'll not find faults with others. That's what Mother also taught. That my child, don't find faults with others. Because nobody's alien here. You yourself. So when you yourself, how can you find faults with others? Generally, whatever we do, we hide it. Whatever faults that we commit, whatever some aberration, so we try to hide it. Why? Because we don't mind. It is our nature that we can commit some mistake. So what is the point? First, we have to identify that unity. If we can identify the unity, then we'll not find faults with others. And that is what exactly we are doing. Trying our discriminating power so that we can see that underlying unity in all being. Then will not be affected by liking, disliking, raga, dvesha, attachment, aversion. So this is the point, right?
Sorry, which comes first? Identifying unity or getting rid of ragadesha, or do you have to
Identifying unity. If we can identify our unity, then raga desha cannot hold ourselves hostage. Then we know it will come. Still that, anger will come, but then we'll say, oh, it's okay, no problem. I give example of Arjuna. After the discourse of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna had to fight and kill the enemies. That was righteous duty. So righteousness can be understood after finding that unity. So then we'll not have that suffering. Generally, we suffer lots of suffering. Those suffering can be overcome by identifying the unity. So first, identify unity. How to identify unity? By the power of discrimination. Viveka. Though we may see many, but actually it is me and me alone. Like that story of Sri Ramakrishna. These are very important stories. Guru told a disciple, God is in all being. God is in all being. So worship all being, or think that all being are God. All beings are God. So he saw that two people were fighting. So he thought, one God is fighting with another. Why they should say he came in between and he tried to pacify both of them. Then both of them became angry with this person and they beat this person very badly. So he was unconscious. Then somebody told his guru that, your disciple is unconscious there. You please bring him here. So other disciples went there and brought that disciple at the ashrama. And by pouring some milk, after a certain time, he was conscious. Then somebody asked, so that he knows that he is now conscious. He said, who is pouring milk to you? So he said, he who beat me up, the same person is feeding me milk now. That means the person could understand that the person who beat him up is the same self as the person who is feeding him milk. So this is the practical. In practice, lots of time you'll have beating. But you have to understand that this is the self. On that self, this is happening. So you won't have that raga dvesha, like the disciple. He did not have that anger for that person. Rather, he knew that the same person who beat him up is the same person who is feeding him milk. Not person, same entity. So if we can have this sense of unity, lots of problem is gone. And the final problem is that if we can conceive that there is none else here, neha nanasti kinchana. Here there are not many. This is the final truth. All our problem starts with other person. Dvaitat bhayam bhavati. When we have second one, then we are afraid of him. Then we are, he may be better than me and this, that. So all our friction starts with this. Finding unity is the solution. And that is what is being done here. Is it okay?
Yes, thank you for the extended explanation. It's a
So this
difficulty
is-
in daily life.
Yeah, actually, this solution is better than any solution. Oh God, now please forgive him. Actually, Jesus also did the same thing. Oh God, they know not what they do. So this is practical. How to tell. Jesus cannot tell what I am the self. They are also self, and the self is beating the self. Nobody will understand. So he prayed, God, forgive them. They know not what they do. So it is the same unity. See, Bhagavan Buddha also similar. When Angulimal came, he wanted to kill him. But as soon as he came under the spell of the influence of Bhagavan Buddha, and he forgot his enmity. And he submitted himself. So this is the great source of strength. And this is the solution. All our problems starts with second one. Dvaitat bhayam bhavati. We are afraid of, we are afraid of ghosts. In darkness, we are afraid to go. Why? Because we think there is a ghost. But there is no one. So finding unity is the source or solution of all our problems. And that is why all Upanishads say this, tadejati, tannejati, taddurye, tadvantike. He's everywhere. I give example, like a person wrote a novel or say a drama. In and through that drama, it is the person who wrote it. Even the villain is issuing a dialogue. It is dialogue of that author. And maybe he's nasty, he's uncivilized, but it is author who is conceiving this. Even Ravana was conceived like that, but Ravana was wise. I mean, wise means he was erudite, scholar, and he had many qualities. He did a great tapasya to even get boons from Brahma. So a great tapasvi, even great devotee of Lord Shankara, Shiva. So, in spite of everything, because he wanted to worship God as an enemy, he did all these things. The case of Duryodhana is different. Because of his previous impressions, we call samskaras, he could not get rid of that. And it is said, like in some drama, it is shown that sometimes he would think that, oh, it is not good for me to not do righteous things. But then, tada rishikesha ridhisthitena yathaniyuktosvi tathakam. In a drama cannot be a drama if there is no villain. So therefore, even the conceiver of Mahabharata, he conceived such a villain who is very strong. And he excelled even in Gadayuddha, he excelled Bhima. And he knew similar than Yudhishthir. So he was not an ordinary person. Only thing, he was selfish. Selfishness is the problem. Why selfish? Because he did not see that all are one. And that is why he did not share. And he did not go righteous way. So this is the problem of multiplicity.
David Bloomshine has a question. David, you can ask directly. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I think you pretty much answered it, but is this similar to where Ramakrishna will talk about how God is the doer and I am just the instrument, in the sense that, like it's all the self inside of there. And I'm
Okay. The thing is, see, as of now, this discrimination, we say it is very hi-fi. Like Janma said, it's very hi-fi philosophy. So how to translate in our day-to-day life? So we can say, okay, it is God's wish that there are so many things. So if we take that way, everything happens by the will of God, that way also we can find it's God and God alone. Again, the unity. It is God and God alone who exists in all being. And he is interacting through all. Therefore, sometimes I'll have to suffer. It's by the will of God. You know that story, another story of Sri Ramakrishna. That weaver was very pious. And he would say, while doing business, by the will of God, by the will of Rama, I bought thread by paying this much. And by the will of God, I made this. So by the will of God, I'll keep $2 as a margin. So this way, everybody knew that he's a very pious man. So one day it happened that after his dinner, he was puffing the hubble bubble and thinking of God. Then some robbers came and they stole something from somewhere, but they had no porter. So he said, hey, come here. So that simple man was taken as porter. And he was given all the things to carry. In the meantime, police came. So all those robbers, they went away. And this man was caught. And he was put into jail. The next morning, he was presented to the judge, and all people came and said, "Sir, he's a very pious man. Don't do any harm to him." Then judge said, "Don't worry. Let me ask him. Tell your story. What happened?" So he said, "By the will of Rama, by the will of God, after dinner, I was thinking of God and puffing my hubble bubble. And by the will of God, these robbers came, few robbers came, and finding me, they said, 'Take this.' So by the will of Lord, I was carrying. And by the will of Lord, police came. And by the will of Lord, these people ran away. By the will of Lord, then police caught me and put me into jail. By the will of Lord, now they have put me in front of you. Now by the will of Lord, whatever happens, happens." So here we find by the will of Lord, will of the Lord. So everything happens by the will of Lord. See, this is another way, it's the devotee's standpoint. But a jnani, knower of self, he knows this is happening because it is the self. On the self, everything happens. We can take that way. As a devotee, that's fine, will of God. So whatever happens, it should not harm us. Rather, that will show us that it is by the will of God that everything is happening. Right? Yeah.
I'm just wondering a couple things. One is, if we get rid of our preferences and don't have a desire to have things be this way or that way, and are equally fine no matter what happens, then what is the role of like trying to improve anything? Like, would you say, for example, like we clean our house because we want a clean house, we walk our house because we don't want our things stolen, we should probably keep doing those things. But
No. See, what's the rule? You have to upkeep your house. You should not keep it open. Even Sri Ramakrishna, while he was going out of room, he would tell someone to lock the room. Devotee should not be callous.
right.
Bhakto hobi to boka hobi keno. If you must be a devotee, you must not be a fool. Okay, this is the first thing. Whatever is to be done is to be done. Okay, now I know the heart of that question. If we do like this, then how can we be a normal person like we do? Ultimately, this whatever we say normal is only limiting adjunct. If you follow this, then you become a new person. Like a drop of water mingles in the ocean, the smallness of the drop of water goes away. You cannot retain it. And that's not there. That is, fear of losing individuality. What will happen to our individuality? Individuality is seeming. We want to hold it. And Swamiji also dealt with this question. But actually it has not. We have universal dimension. We are to identify that universal dimension. Then tatra ko moha ka shoka ekatvam anupashyata. Then there is no suffering. There is no confusion. Because you see one. If you want to keep your individuality, you will have to suffer. See, even that devotee, by the will of Rama, by the will of God, this happened. So he's not attached. He's detached. And he depends on God. So depending on God and depending on the self, the same thing. Only two different standpoints. God is somewhere. But here God is not somewhere. God is within the self. So if you want to retain your individuality, then you'll have to suffer. You will have to suffer. There is no other way. But if you want to get rid of this suffering, you must transcend this limiting adjunct. Right? This is the heart of your question.
And the other part of it, the second part was. Don't we also have to stay disciplined to do self-effort? Like, for example, we can't say if it's the will of God, I'll realize the will of God and then not do anything.
No. You are not God. This limiting adjunct is not God.
Yeah.
Your real being, that's why all the time we say this. Your real being is not you. This is seeming. What you feel yourself as a woman, as Mrs. Say like Suji or some, whatever name, these are limiting adjuncts. One has to overcome that. What is the reality behind all this seeming appearance? You know, you are a kid. Now you are not a kid. So this body is not. And you have identity as your mind. But mind also keeps on changing. It has many moods. Whatever changes is not yourself. So behind that, what is that? Even your intelligence also changed. You were a kid, you knew little, now you know more. So this also keeps on changing. Whatever changes is not you. But behind that is yourself. That never changes. That is to be identified. You cannot hold this identity, you cannot even have it. Try it, you cannot have it. Say when you go to sleep, you lose this identity. If you want to keep this, you cannot have sleep. Well, I have so much of money, I look like this, my name is this. You cannot sleep. You have to get rid of all these identities, then only you can sleep well. So the solution is to get rid of this willingly. It goes automatically and comes back automatically. But willingly and consciously, this is to be overcome. That's the idea. And find unity. That unity will remove the suffering from us. Tatra ko moha kah shokaha. There is no confusion. Where is that confusion? Where come this confusion? And where come this infatuation? When you see one, then there is no even death. There is no life also. So that, first let us acquaint ourselves with these ideas. Then we are to find this within us. Okay. So I think time is up, no? What is the time? So we'll say our prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamivavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hare Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you very much. It is
Namaste, Swami.
Namaste.
Namaste, Swami.